Around 17,000 murders every year. Armed robberies are up. We boast the highest incidences of rape in the world, and our people are being literally exterminated for no sane reason, whether they live in Houghton or the townships.
And we're saying to them, take whatever you want. Just go, just take, go. Then the other guy just came up and just shot him. Just shot him in the head.
10-year-old Samantha and 9-year-old Bryony saw their father being shot.
At the moment, I didn't cry. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there and looked at him.
I'm raising my two daughters behind four walls, which is a far cry from what I had when I was growing up.
At the end of the day, I have to look after my family. My government, as far as I'm concerned, does not look after me.
We marveled at our smooth transition into democracy. But now new research indicates that we are facing a crisis of governance. A political power shift at Polokwane. Our top cop in court. The president-elect also up on fraud charges. The Eskom blackout, which has the potential to severely damage our economy. These institutions include municipalities, and when they fail to deliver, we saw what happened in a place like Khutsong, scenes reminiscent of the late 80s and early 90s.
And in fact, our education system at the moment is, to an extent, in disarray.
The state of education is directly linked to our skills shortage. Consider this. Over 1.6 million learners entered the school system in 1995. Of those, only over 500,000 wrote matric, with about 368,000 passing. The maths exemption on the higher grade was only attained by about 25,000 learners, of which less than 2,000 were black. But one person who won't be affected is Ian Petty, whose job it is to relocate South Africans who emigrate.
I would say in the last 6 months, our international moving business has increased by about 50%.
If they manage crime in this country and they manage the bribery and corruption issues, then, you know, why would I want to leave?
Johan Roo and his family have had enough. They've survived an armed robbery at their home. In a separate incident, his wife was held up at gunpoint. And recently, a friend of the family was shot dead for a cell phone.
Crime is the big issue, yeah. Crime is for me, is the #1 issue.
Also leaving soon is previously disadvantaged Redan Adams, who lives in Cape Town and works as a mechanic to support a wife and 2 teenage daughters.
I'm raising my two daughters behind four walls, which is a far cry from what I had when I was growing up.
These people made their decision to leave South Africa at least a year ago. But since Polokwane, the charging of our top cop Jackie Selebi, charges of corruption against Jacob Zuma and Eskom's burnout, there seems to be a surge of South Africans wanting to leave. Gary Eisenberg's phone hasn't stopped ringing. He runs a large immigration practice in Cape Town.
During the past 2 months, our telephones and our emails have spiraled upwards.
Eden Ube is an immigration lawyer in Johannesburg.
When we came back from the summer holidays, our fax lines, our email lines just started being clogged up completely by people inquiring about going to Australia, New Zealand and Canada.
After a car hijacking, he too is leaving.
And you know, at the end of the day, I have to look after my family. My government, as far as I'm concerned, does not look after me.
The remarks of Safety and Security Minister Charles Nqakula to Parliament is still fresh in the minds of people.
Or they can simply leave this country.
I am terribly sad. I have my families here. I have friends here.
Redan would prefer to remain in Cape Town, but he doesn't want his family to become another statistic. Around 17,000 murders every year. We boast the highest incidences of rape in the world, and our people are being literally exterminated for no sane reason, whether they live in Houghton or the townships.
And we're saying to them, take whatever you want. Just go, just take, go. Then the other guy just came up and just shot him. Just shot him in the head.
Last week we told of how close to 50% of our children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And this week, the Institute of Race Relations released alarming statistics.
Only 23% of our kids feel safe in school. And I mean, that's quite a shocking statistic. Of the countries that were included in the study, we came absolute bottom of the list in the world.
The Institute is a democracy monitor providing statistics for policymakers. It also keeps tabs on immigration trends.
What we did find is that you would expect it would be kind of the old guard guys who would be going. The guys like in their 40s and older who were already established and they thought, no, maybe the country will go to hell, we're gonna cut and run now. But actually the opposite effect has occurred. It's young whites between the ages of about 20 and 35 who are the ones who are missing.
We don't know the up-to-date immigration figures over the last few years because in 2004, Home Affairs no longer required those leaving to stipulate reasons for their departure. But Marco has the previous figures.
Between 1995 and about 2005, up to about 850,000 whites had left the country, and that's about a fifth of the white population. So it's quite a wave of people that left the country, especially in this transition phase where we need every skilled person that we can get our hands on.
So what's bringing on this new wave?
It seems to me that when Eskom turned off the lights, people wanted to leave immediately.
With the fears of running blackouts and probably no alleviation until maybe 2016, that's very worrying from an economic point of view, because if the economy slows down, there's no way that as a people we can live up to the kind of expectations that we had for this country and the kind of promises that government has made for a better life for all.
How do the people rate government now?
As a nation, we marveled at our smooth transition into democracy. We went through the Mandela euphoria and now almost at the end of the Mbeki reign. But now new research indicates that we are facing a crisis of governance. Confidence in our leaders and in our institutions of democracy has declined sharply.
For the last 4 years, the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation publishes research called the Transformation Audit. It's an opinion poll. Over the last 2 years, approval of government has dropped by 20%.
This is not just a simple judgment on a politician's character. For example, the President Mbeki versus Zuma debate. It's not about that so much as it is about how we use our institutions.
These institutions include municipalities, and when they fail to deliver, we saw what happened in a place like Khutsong, scenes reminiscent of the late 80s and early 90s.
I think another major issue in terms of public trust is corruption. Individual members of parliament that are found guilty of any number of crimes and then tapped on the wrist and let off. I think those things must be lethal for public trust.
Johan and Rizal Venter are an example of this diminishing trust. They've lost confidence in South Africa and in 2 weeks they fly out to New Zealand. John was headhunted by Air New Zealand.
Were you always thinking about leaving the country?
No, not really. No, I was quite happy living my life, and then I think I'm a bit disappointed how the country is managed as a whole, and there's insecurities that set into the company that I'm working for.
It was a traumatic decision.
I had all the security, I had my kids here around me, I had my family here. I'm leaving all this behind, and I'm starting afresh on the other side. It's scary.
What's frightening for South Africa is that Johan knows of 61 other technicians in his field who are taking up positions with Air New Zealand.
The greatest criticism is that you're just a bunch of whinging whites.
No, I don't think so. In fact, it would have been better for people to take hands and join forces, because the knowledge that me and other people that might be whites do have to offer to build this country is quite needed.
It would be fine to replace those skills, because the colour of someone that leaves actually shouldn't be of concern to anyone. But the fact is that someone who takes all those skills with them, they're taking the economy with them as well. In terms of replacing those skills, at the moment we're not doing it fast enough. And in fact our education system at the moment is to an extent in disarray.
The state of education is directly linked to our skilled shortage. Consider this. Over 1.6 million learners entered the school system in 1995. Of those, only over 500,000 wrote matric, with about 368,000 passing. The maths exemption on the higher grade was only attained by about 25,000 learners, of which less than 2,000 were black. Because of the skilled shortage, South African companies are having to scout overseas.
When it comes to looking at the PDIs, the previously disadvantaged individuals that aren't applying for these jobs because they're not qualified, we're bringing in foreigners at a premium to come and work here, which is very sad.